Scientist biography. I have Galileo and Isaac Newton, and I'm Pamela Hutchins. Galileo was one of the most influential people in the history of science. We're still using some of his discoveries to this day. He discovered some of the most significant parts that are relative to our solar system, such as planets, stars, moons, and different aspects of the sky. He was also the first person to study the sky with a telescope. Galileo, the early years. Galileo was born on February 15th in 1564 in the Italian city of Pisa. He was the oldest son of Vince and Juliet. And as a young man, Galileo was very indecisive between becoming a Catholic priest or a doctor of medicine. His father was adamant on Galileo studying medicine, which is what he ended up doing. He started at the University of Pisa at only 17 years old, but this plan soon fell apart. At 18, he stumbled into mathematics, and he found this so much more interesting than medicine. He began to quickly realize what kind of role he could really take playing. In his middle years, at 22, he published a book about hydrostatic balance he had invented. He became known to other scientists. Despite progress he made, Galileo's first job was an art teacher. At 24, he started teaching art in Florence. He didn't stay long at that job. His scientific and mathematical powers were noticed, and around 1589, at the age of 25, he was awarded the chair of mathematics at the University of Pisa. Later, he found a position at the University of Padua. I'm totally pronouncing that wrong, sorry. During the 18 years at Padua, he gave many lectures and attracted large crowds of followers, which increased his fame and his sense of direction. Towards the end of his life, Galileo's church troubles began when he was 49 years old. He published letters on sunspots, which was similar to something Corpus had already determined. In 1615, Galileo wrote the Bible's words have been interpreted by modern science. In 1616, they went even further and banned the book that Corpus had proposed. In 1620, they changed their mind and edited the book and then published it. In 1632, a church in Florence approved some of Galileo's work, but unfortunately, Galileo had to answer to some charges faced in records of his new works. He was found guilty of these charges and placed on house arrest for 8 years. In 1638, he published a famous masterpiece. After those years on house arrest, he passed away at the age of 77 on January 8, 1642. And then here's just kind of a summary of Galileo and some of the things he's accomplished. As previously stated, he was the first person to study the sky with a telescope. He became a telescope builder and made money selling them to merchants in Venice who were eager to see which ships were arriving as soon as possible to make money on the future market. He discovered the first moons ever known to orbit a planet other than Earth. Jupiter's 4 largest moons, which he discovered, are still known as the Galilean satellites in his honor. He discovered that Venus has phases just like the moon, ranging from thin crescent to full. This was the first observational evidence that the sun sits at the center of the solar system. He discovered the rings of Saturn, he discovered our moons have mountains, and he discovered that the Milky Way is made up of stars. And now we're going to go ahead and move on to Isaac Newton, and here's an introduction for that. Isaac Newton proved all objects moving through space are affected by gravity. He is one of the greatest physicists to ever live. Sorry, that's a hard word to get out. He was born on January 4th, 1643. He discovered the law of universal gravitation. He discovered inverted Celsius, the formula for the three laws of motions, and the world's first reflecting telescope. Isaac Newton, the early years. Isaac Newton was born on January 4th, 1643 in Wolsterhope, in England. We're just going to say in England. His father was also named Isaac Newton but died before his birth. His mother's name was Hannah, and she married again before he was 3. At 12, he started to attend the King's School and was taught classics, but no science or mathematics, surprisingly. In June 1661, he started to study at Cambridge University for a degree in law. By his 3rd year, he spent most of his time studying mathematics and philosophy. He began to disregard what he was taught in school and focused on the earlier teachings of the famous scientists such as Galileo. And in 1655, at 22, a year after his 4-year scholarship, he discovered the generalized binomial theorem. I said that wrong. Isaac Newton, the middle years. After his discovery of calculus, gravity, and the information on optics and the behavior of light, at 24 he returned to Cambridge and was elected as a fellow in Trinity College. 1 year later, he was awarded a master's degree. After that, the professor of mathematics left the college and Isaac was appointed to take his place, in which this professor spoke very highly of him. He devoted much of his time into his study, in which one of his favorites was alchemy. As the years went on, he continued his research and made so many significant discoveries contributing to science and physics. Despite Newton's brilliance, he was a very insecure person, mostly due to his childhood difficulties. Newton had not published much of his information he had discovered on calculus, and had people who were developing their own theories and challenging Newton. In 1696, Newton was appointed as a warden of the Royal Mint, and following that in 1700, he became a master of the Mint, in which he left Cambridge for London and ended his scientific work on that note. In 1703, he was elected president of the Royal Society, and in 1705, he was knighted. He died on March 31st, 1727 at the age of 84. He never had any children, nor did he have a wife. His legacy carries on today and is the basis for so many scientific discoveries and lessons. Thank you for viewing this presentation regarding Galileo and Isaac Newton. I hope this information was informative and shed some light on these great people. Thank you very much.